Hello, I am back after a week. Not really a break, I was working every day. So I am back. I'm going to try and do my best. I'm still running a bit low on time and energy, but I'm going to go as fast as I can. I thought about getting a haircut and get rid of this mop of hair on my head today, but instead I went, better film the Inwit episode or else I'll never get a chance to do it. So we obviously missed episode 8. Not really much for me to discuss in episode 8. A big old shambles of everything going wrong. The worst Shan's played so far. We do see Shan and the starting elements of Shan and Deshaun clash, which then leads into a bit of this episode. So it's interesting that plays out over 2 episodes. And then we are now at episode 9, which, with the sloppy gameplay we see in episode 8, does follow into what we have at the start here, where everything is sloppy. We're watching Deshaun and Heather have that little moment of like, why did Heather freak out and panic and screw everything up because it was a simple plan, which then no idols are flushed. Out of 3 idols out there, not a single one is flushed, and someone irrelevant, which Tiff goes home, but again, in the grand scheme of things, those 3, Tiff, Evie and Xander, are so split and fragmented, and we see them just scrambling like hell in episode 8, which is interesting because when you fall to the bottom and you have 0 power, there's not much need to scramble as violently as they did so early in the episode. What you now can do is start to see that maybe there's other options for them to move into different places. Maybe they can keep things together. Maybe they can mend the relationship that was broken because of Evie breaking her trust with Xander, and throwing Xander and Tiff under the bus with where idols and information went. But usually when you fall so low, you can become irrelevant, and in turn get a little bit of power by getting extra days in, while the majority of alliance switch their focus to people who are actually threatening. Tiff isn't super threatening. She's vocal. From what we see, she couldn't win. So kind of a really weird way to go out of an absolute shambles of another live tribal that didn't need to be like this. It's a tribal that's built upon a lot of fear, and this fear carries onto this episode with some craziness again at the start, and Heather's put herself in a pretty weird situation and then Deshaun has that moment, but then Naseer has that moment where I don't believe you, all this sort of stuff that's going on, this weird confrontation he has with her, which then leads to that other confrontation, not confrontation, but that other moment, which really, really was the nail in his coffin to the game plan of going, sorry, but you're going home tonight. Craziness. Like, for a person who's grown up watching the show and learned English from the show, that's a suicide move. Why would anyone you never tell a person they're going home, because that gives them time, right? Gives them hours to come up with a plan to reverse that. And if they're going to reverse it, the person that's going to cop the heat is you, because you're the one that's brought it up. They're not going to go to anybody else. Crazy. Anyway, we get the twist, which wasn't as terrible as I thought it might be. I thought people were just going to go home via like pulling rocks. I think I saw a post on the Instagram, who's the unlucky one that ends up having to go home. But the splitting the 10 people into the 5 tribes competing for an individual idol in each of the 5 tribes that then vote only with those tribes, I don't actually mind. It does mean you now can't solely rely on that one little relationship in case that breaks apart. And we see it does break apart. I mean, Ricard and Shan stay together, which is pretty good because Shan has put herself with Ricard as a number 2, but then sliding across to that 4 alliance with Liliana, Deshaun, and Danny. Even though Deshaun and Shan are really butting heads at the moment and destroying everything, because Shan is making a very, very, very big mistake, and 2 episodes in a row of bad gameplay, which now she's still getting a great lot of screen time, so and played very well at the start, maybe she still wins. But these two games back to back are pretty damaging for a good gameplay so far that she'd played. I've talked about this many times over the years. When you are wanting to be in power, some of the best ways to keep control is by allowing some of your alliance members to have some control, to give them a little bit of faith, and give them a little bit of trust, and give them a move. The trick is not only the real smart players can give them a move, but it was already the move they wanted. That's the inception element that you want to do. But if you can't manipulate it to be what you need it to be, giving them a move makes them feel safe, makes them feel heard, which is the big thing that we're getting in this episode. I hear you. I want to try and listen to you a bit more, and makes the ability to work together go further. Because for the most part, if you're a player of the game, you want to make moves. You know that's how you win the game, so you have to allow other people to make those moves. Then sure, get rid of them, blindside them, or make better moves. Or have a better way to go, I controlled every one of these moves. I told. Deshaun is saying he got this person out, but he got this person out because I planted this seed to get that person out long before and controlled. Like, it seems such a weird way that Shan is so focused and hell-bent on telling Deshaun what to do, even though he's actually voiced it. Maybe because Liliana's in her pocket and she'll look up to Shan pretty rapidly and strongly because she gave her the freedom to start playing. Liliana couldn't play the game before she met Shan. Shan has now unlocked her little survivor bug, and now she feels like a stronger player because of Shan. Danny doesn't seem to know anything about strategy. I'm a big fan of him as far as he looks like he could be a powerhouse, and I love physical players for just only because of the physicality, nothing to do with strategy. If they have both, which is rare, I'm in love. I'm all over it. But he isn't that. He's just going along for the ride, and he's quite content with, this is the alliance, this is what we're going to do, this is the loyalty element. He doesn't seem to understand the strategic side of the game. So if you've got two people in this four alliance that are like that, maybe you get confused and think you can get away with it with Deshaun, but you got to read everyone individually. So it's a really interesting situation that's unfolding, but they're split when it comes to the challenge, the reward / immunity. They're split on separate sides. We have Shan and Ricard staying together, which is at least she's got her number one. Then you have Naseer, Heather, Erica. Erica ends up winning immunity, which means you have Naseer, Ricard, Heather, Shan up for votes. Shan has a hidden immunity idol, could be a place to blindside her. Naseer has a hidden immunity idol, could be a place to blindside him. Turns out it is. Naseer makes that fatal move by saying, Heather, you're gone tonight. I'm sorry, but it's going to have to be you. Stupid thing to do, because as I said before, gives her plenty of time. For someone who can play the game, gives them plenty of time to really rip that apart. For Heather, who can't play the game, who we've never seen anything about her apart from this episode, even gave her enough time to change things up. I mean, her pathetic acting at Tribal when she went, oh, and Jeff went, what's that? What's going on there? And she was trying to be emotional, but there was nothing there because she knew the plan was pretty much solid. She didn't, by what I feel, she didn't think she was going home. The interesting thing that happens is the extra vote here. Ricard wants her to play the extra vote. Ricard really doesn't think we should get rid of Heather. Shan wants to get rid of Heather. Why Shan wants to get rid of Heather baffles me. She is clearly the person you're taking to the end. She's the GOAT. There is no one else you want to take to the end. She can't do anything. She has zero power. She's not even being looked at, aside from the fact that people want to get rid of her because she's not playing the game. Bizarre. So Shan wants to get rid of her. Ricard has to do some really nice stuff here to try and make that happen, but he also wants her to play the advantage for this moment, or wants to get the advantage off her so he can play it. She refuses because she will play it. She'll play it. So it's her move, which goes back to this thing with Shan is too controlling, and it can potentially ruin her game. Really could potentially ruin her game. But it never needed to be played. Did Shan put one vote on each? How did this happen? We had a tie in a tribe of 5, a voting block of 5. We get the 6 votes to go for a tie. Naseer votes Heather. Heather and Erica vote Naseer. Shan and Ricard. Ricard wants to vote Heather. So right now, what I can see is we've got 3. Ricard wants to vote Naseer and keep Heather because that's the logical thing that makes so much sense. So we've got 3 and 2. 3 on Heather, 2 on Naseer. 3 on Naseer, 2 on Heather. If Shan really wanted to get rid of Heather. They didn't show the votes for this one because it was that middle one. But does that mean Shan plays her vote and then another vote to tie it up? So she plays 2 votes on Heather to make a tie, to then end up voting Naseer. Has she done this purely on the fact that if Naseer plays his idol? Because none of this makes any sense to me. If Naseer plays the idol, Heather goes home. None of the votes count. If Naseer doesn't play the idol, Naseer goes home. If you split the votes like that and make a tie, Naseer has played his idol. Those votes won't count. You've still got 2 votes or 3 votes on Heather. It was one of the most wasted not the most wasted. Liliana was the most wasted so far, but it was a wasted advantage. The plan was pretty simple. Naseer was feeling so comfortable. He was 100% Heather was going home. You just have to make him feel 200%. Even with Heather's poor as hell acting, it's a no-brainer. He's not playing his idol. He's so comfortable with it, which is so weird. Everybody knows where everything is. And Jeff even says that. Jeff even why does everybody know? Because you made them know. You made them announce it to everybody. You want idols to be hidden. This isn't hidden. You've made hidden idols. That's it. Everyone knows where they are. So it blows my mind that Jeff's confused as to why everyone knows where everything is. You're sending 2 people away to get an advantage. Clear as day. They've gone away. They potentially have an advantage. You make everyone announce the idol. There's nothing hidden here about this. But maybe the fact that they're not hidden is giving them this weird confidence that because they know where they are, they won't flush them. I don't know. But waste of advantage anyway. Anyway, Naseer goes home. He joins the bench. Interesting, bizarre. Don't know why it happened. Is it just it never needed to happen? Is it the fact that I needed to play this move? It was a waste. It wasn't a move. It was a waste. Anyway, we move to the next 5. Things get a little bit more strategic, which is nice here. We've got Danny, Deshaun, Liliana, 3 of the 4 together. Xander wins immunity. And then after Xander wins immunity, we've got Evie. Xander has an idol that he can play for Evie. And he does threaten that. Which, if you think about it, he actually won't play it for Evie. For him to play it for Evie is giving... Evie does not deserve his loyalty. After what has happened 2 episodes ago, he shouldn't. He can always use it as a bluff. Because that's the best way to do things. It's a bluff for him because it's going to help him. It's going to help him get that bluff out. Because that's the way he can use his idol's power. We know where it is. We know you've got an idol. How do we know how you're going to use it? And by bluffing it, it can be some form of power. And then we have this weird thing where Liliana tries to do a Shan with Xander. If you give me your advantage, if you give me your extra vote, I'll trust you. Hang on a second. Xander knows so much that you want him gone. Such a weird thing to try that. I mean, yes, it's worked for other people, but it's so weird to do. So craziness that happens. But then we have that little moment where Deshaun actually sits there and goes, maybe we should get rid of Liliana. It would be a good move to get rid of Shan's second, not including Ricard. Ricard would be her one, Liliana's her two, and weaken her a little bit. Don't know why they didn't. It fell down to maybe the fact that Danny being so loyal, it would be hard to pull that across. And if Deshaun was to break that trust with Danny by voting out part of their alliance, he also then breaks the trust with Shan, which is already on a knife's edge anyway. But it leaves him very much in the middle of nowhere. He can go and try and swoop in and get on board a Xander, Erica, and well, Evie sticks around. He can stick with Evie, Xander and Evie, and maybe try and see what a Heather and Erica, what they can pull off. But it becomes a very dangerous space for him to be. By being in a spot where he does have power right now, he's in a strong alliance and he's thinking about the game. Giving up in this split moment, it's going to break. He can't take an ally of Shan's. Shan's got too many close allies. Ricard and Liliana is really, really strong. Can't really do that. But what he could do is wait that little bit longer. And then instead of going for one of the allies, just go for Shan. Just blindside Shan. And this is where Deshaun can really fix his problem with Shan. He's got to get rid of her. He says at the start of the game, she's costing me she's now stopping me on my $1 million journey. It is an individual game. So what he can then do is let go of the fact that Shan is not letting him do anything. That's okay. Shan is not letting you vote for someone. Great, that's enough. You've tried, you've spoken about it, and she still isn't. She's still pushing stuff. So now it's time to change things around a bit. Now it's time to let her do all that. You can shut up. You can let her have her power. Much in the same way that I just said with Shan should probably let Deshaun have a little bit of power. Giving them that little bit of power leads them into a false sense of security. Deshaun should just shut up now. Let Shan have her power. Know that's what she's going to be. And might feel weird to apologize for it. But you can be the bigger person here. You can easily just go and apologize and pretend it's all good. And that way, she easily isn't expecting it and you vote her out. You blindside her. She blindsided her with an idol and should have been an advantage because it was silly to play it. But that's the best thing you should be doing here in this situation. So he has shut up. Evie goes home. Pretty stock standard. And leaving Xander on his own. All in all, not too bad a play there from him. And even though he wanted to, and he tried, he threw it out there. There was no bites. Took it back. Couldn't do anything. Better to protect himself. Take another swipe another day. And the other day the next day he can take a swipe. Should be the day he can take on the actual head of the snake, as they always say in the game. Anyway, that probably wraps me up. I'm a bit forgotten where I was, really. I've forgotten exactly where I was. I think I've covered that little bit. Interesting to see them come back. What happens next week will be interesting to see how they interact. But we have Evie, pretty obvious. Naseer, a bit of a surprise potentially, but they've seen it already when they've come to Tribal. And Danny could be a little bit on why Naseer. But in the grand scheme of things, it's an easy one to say. Naseer wasn't really... We wanted to... Like, they were going to throw the challenge to get rid of Naseer. Oh, no. They were going to throw the challenge in... Naseer, even though Danny might like Naseer, that might shake things up and make Danny understand how the game is going to be played. But it's, in the grand scheme of things, not a big consequence because their 4 alliance is still together. Naseer was an added person. Ricard, in their mind, is an added person. So going to be interesting to see what happens next week, when they all come back together and play as one. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. I do apologize that I didn't get last episode 8 out. Things happen. I'm a busy guy. Anyway, hopefully next week seems a bit lighter for me. I will definitely see you all next week. See ya.